It was the monsoon season of August 2024 in the small northern Indian village of Satara, where the last echoes of temple bells still lingered among the hills. Once, this valley had been a cradle of Buddhist devotion, a place where saffron-robed monks walked barefoot through mist-laden fields, murmuring the ancient verses of the Dhammapada. But now, the chants had faded. The stone stupas were cracked and half swallowed by moss, and only one temple still stood, the old Linsan monastery, perched on a weathered cliff like a guardian who had outlived his time. Within its silent walls lived Venerable Ananda, a monk whose age seemed as ancient as the cracked bronze bell hanging before the temple gate. His thin frame bent slightly with years of meditation and solitude. His eyes, deep and watchful, reflected both peace and sorrow. Peace from his discipline, sorrow from his witnessing of change. Every morning before dawn, Ananda would rise, light incense, and bow 3 times before the Buddha statue, a figure now dulled by dust and years of neglect. He would chant softly, the words falling like rain, "May all beings be free from suffering." Yet each time he looked out from the temple porch, he felt an ache within him that no prayer could soothe. The people of Satara no longer climbed the stone steps to offer lotus flowers. Many had turned toward the white chapel in the valley, where the Catholic missionaries had built a church 2 decades earlier. Its cross gleamed under the rain, new and polished, a symbol of something vibrant and foreign. On Sundays, Ananda would hear the sound of bells and hymns carried by the wind, echoing faintly through the hills. The voices were young, full of warmth and life, so different from the hollow resonance of his own temple gong. He had never hated them, not truly, but there was a weight in his chest that he could not name, something between jealousy, fear, and grief. To see his own disciples, once shaven-headed and clothed in ochre robes, now dressed in white and attending the church at dawn, it was like watching a river that had once flowed toward the temple suddenly change its course. One evening, as thunder rumbled across the valley, a young novice named Ravi returned from the village market, his robe drenched and his expression uneasy. "Master," Ravi said, bowing low, "they have built another shrine, near the banyan tree, beside the old path to the river, a statue of a woman holding a child." Ananda's hand froze above the prayer beads. "A woman?" "Yes, Master. They call her Mother Mary." The monk said nothing for a long time. Outside, rain beat against the eaves, steady and merciless. He remembered that tree well. The banyan had once shaded a resting spot for pilgrims who came to the monastery. It was a sacred place, part of the temple's path. Now it was marked by a symbol of another faith. That night, Ananda sat before the altar for hours, incense smoke curling around him like ghosts of the past. He tried to meditate, but his mind was restless. Why have they abandoned us, he thought. Have the old teachings lost their light? Or have we failed to keep it burning? The Buddha's face before him seemed to look back, serene, detached, as if above such worldly sorrow. Yet the old monk felt the storm rising inside his heart, mirroring the tempest outside. By midnight, the rain had turned to a downpour. The sound filled every corner of the temple, the dripping of water from the cracked roof, the rush of wind through the broken shutters. He sat by the window, watching the lightning flash across the valley. For a brief moment, he saw the distant cross of the church illuminated in white fire, and below it the faint outline of the new statue. A woman's figure standing in the storm, unbending, holding a child against her chest. Something stirred in him, something sharp and wordless. Even stone images, he whispered to himself, find more hearts than the living teachings of the Buddha. The bitterness surprised him. It was not his way, yet he could not deny it. His mind was tired, his heart heavy. He had spent his life preaching compassion and detachment, yet all he felt now was loss. He closed his eyes and tried to listen, to the rain, to the silence between thunder,
to the small beating of his own heart. Somewhere in that quiet, he thought he heard another sound, faint, like the murmur of a woman's voice. But when he opened his eyes, there was only darkness and the flickering of a dying candle. At dawn, when the rain finally eased, the world smelled of wet earth and renewal. Ananda walked out onto the temple steps. The valley below was wrapped in fog, the river swollen, the fields glistening. Far away, the church bell tolled. It sounded like a call, not of triumph, but of invitation. He watched as villagers in bright saris walked down the muddy path, carrying flowers, not for the temple, but for the chapel. They smiled as they passed, unaware of the monk watching from the hill. Among them, he recognized Mira, once his devoted student, now wearing a silver cross around her neck. She looked peaceful, radiant even. A strange envy took hold of him again. Yet beneath it, a question formed. What is faith if it cannot bring peace to the heart? That evening, Ananda knelt before the Buddha once more. The air was still damp, the incense weak. "Teacher," he whispered, "the world has changed. The people seek new gods. What am I to do when the old light fades?" The statue did not answer. Yet a drop of rain leaked through the ceiling and landed upon its stone hand, a single shining bead that caught the dim light of the oil lamp. Ananda watched it roll down slowly, like a tear. Outside, the wind rose again, carrying the distant echo of singing, not Buddhist chants, but the hymn of the villagers from below. For the first time, Ananda felt a tremor of anger beneath his calm, like thunder gathering beyond the hills. And thus, under the heavy clouds of Satara, the storm within the monk began, a storm that would test his faith, his compassion, and the fragile boundary between devotion and despair. The rain returned the next afternoon, heavier, darker, as if the sky itself could no longer hold its grief. Sheets of water fell across Satara, turning its dirt roads into rivers of mud. Thunder rolled over the valley like the footsteps of angry gods. Inside Linsan Monastery, the old monk sat motionless, his prayer beads slipping slowly between his fingers. The incense had burned down to ash, and the air was thick with dampness. The sound of rain striking the tiles was relentless, a ceaseless rhythm that made every thought echo louder in his mind. He could not stop thinking about the statue beneath the banyan tree. That single image, a mother and child standing unbroken in the storm, had rooted itself in his memory like a thorn. He tried to meditate, to dissolve the thought as he had been taught since youth, but the more he tried, the more it grew. Why do they kneel before her? Why not before the enlightened one who gave the world compassion without end? The questions swirled within him, feeding a bitterness that frightened him. By dusk, the storm worsened. The wind howled through the mountain passes, rattling the chime outside his chamber. A few candles flickered weakly, throwing long shadows across the stone floor. Ravi entered, clutching a small bowl of rice. "Master," he said softly, "the villagers are praying at the new shrine again, even in this rain." Ananda did not look up. "Do they think she can stop the rain?" he asked, his tone sharper than intended. The boy hesitated. They believe she listens." "Listens?" Ananda's voice cracked slightly. "And what of the Buddha, Ravi? Has he gone deaf?" The novice bowed his head, frightened by the bitterness in his teacher's voice. Ananda sighed, guilt cutting through his anger. "Forgive me, child," he murmured. "I am tired. Go rest." When Ravi left, silence fell again, except for the endless rain. Ananda's gaze turned to the bronze bell hanging in the courtyard. Once, its sound could summon the entire village. Now it only echoed back at him, hollow and lonely. He rose slowly, gripping his staff, and walked toward the temple door.
Outside, the world was a blur of rain and wind. Yet through that veil of water, he could see it, faintly, the glimmer of candles by the banyan tree, the shape of people gathered around the new statue. The sight pulled at him, irresistibly. He hesitated for a long moment, then stepped into the rain. The path down the hill was slippery, every step sinking into the mud. The rain plastered his robe to his skin, cold and heavy. Lightning flashed above, lighting up the valley in brief, blinding bursts. He reached the old path by the banyan tree. There, under a makeshift roof of bamboo and cloth, stood the new shrine, the statue of the woman and child, radiant even in the storm. Around it, a few villagers knelt, their hands clasped in prayer. The flame of a single candle flickered between them, refusing to die.
Ananda stopped at the edge of the light. The villagers did not see him. They were lost in their devotion. He watched them silently, the way they bowed, the way their faces softened with peace. One woman held a baby in her arms, murmuring words of gratitude. Another, an old man, touched the statue's feet with trembling hands. The monk's heart twisted. He felt an emotion he could not name. Envy of their certainty, perhaps? Or sorrow that his own faith felt so frail in comparison. He wanted to step forward, to speak, to remind them of the teachings they had forgotten. But as he opened his mouth, thunder cracked overhead, drowning out his voice. Lightning illuminated the statue. For an instant, it seemed alive. The face of the woman serene, her eyes filled with compassion. Ananda blinked, startled. It was only stone. And yet, he felt as though she looked at him, not with triumph, not with reproach, but with pity. His breath caught. Something inside him snapped, not entirely out of anger, but from years of loneliness and silence. He took one step forward, but before he could speak, a hand caught his sleeve. "Master," whispered a voice behind him. It was Ravi. The boy had followed him into the rain. "Please," Ravi said, trembling, "come back. This isn't the way." Ananda stared at him, water streaming down his face. "You don't understand," he said. "They've forgotten everything. The Dharma is dying, and we just watch." "The Buddha taught compassion, not conquest," Ravi said softly. "Let them pray, Master. Faith wears many faces." For a long moment, only the rain spoke between them. Then, from the valley below, the church bell tolled again, deep, resonant, cutting through the storm. Ananda felt the sound like a pulse inside his chest. He closed his eyes. His mind was chaos, anger, shame, sorrow, all swirling together like the wind. And then, through it all, he thought he heard another sound, a woman's voice, faint and tender, like the whisper he had heard the night before. "Do not harden your heart, child," it said. He opened his eyes. No one was there. The lightning struck again, this time closer. The flash blinded him, the thunder deafened him, and the next thing he knew, he was falling. His foot had slipped in the mud, and his body hit the ground with a thud. Pain shot through his shoulder. Ravi screamed and ran to him, "Master!" But before the boy could help him up, a strange light filled the air, not the cold blue of lightning, but a soft golden glow. It came from the shrine. The villagers gasped, falling to their knees. Even through the rain, the light shone steady, wrapping the statue in a halo. The candle, which should have been extinguished by the downpour, burned brighter, impossibly bright. Ananda, still on the ground, stared in disbelief. His lips moved, but no words came. The light shimmered once, then faded, leaving only the rain and the sound of thunder rolling away. When it was over, he was trembling. The villagers turned toward him, not with anger, not with fear, but with compassion. One of them, Mira, stepped forward. "Venerable," she said softly, "perhaps heaven hears more voices than we imagine." Ravi helped him to his feet. The old monk looked at the statue again, the same serene face, now wet with rain that looked almost like tears. Something within him shifted, fragile but real, a crack in the wall he had built around his heart. He whispered, half to himself, "Perhaps faith is not a rival, but a mirror." Then he turned away, leaning on Ravi's arm, and together they climbed back up the slippery hill toward the monastery. Behind them, the rain softened, as if the sky itself were finally beginning to rest.
That night, the rain returned, soft at first, then heavier, as if the heavens themselves could sense the unrest within the old monk. Ananda sat before the altar, the flame of a single candle wavering in the damp air. The Buddha's face, half lit, seemed to watch him with infinite calm. Yet the calm brought him no comfort. He could not forget the light that had shone from the Virgin statue, that soft, golden glow that had defied the storm, defied reason. It haunted him. He had lived a lifetime preaching detachment, yet his heart burned with something shameful, envy, doubt, resentment. When the wind howled and the shutters creaked, something within him broke. "What compassion is left," he whispered bitterly, "when truth is mocked by illusion?" He rose. His movements were slow, deliberate. From a clay pot near the doorway, he scooped a handful of wet earth, thick, dark, and cold. The same mud that the villagers walked through every day on their way to the new shrine. Ravi's sleeping form stirred faintly in the next room, but the monk said nothing. He stepped out into the storm. The path to the banyan tree was steep, and the rain beat against him like reproach. Yet he walked on, the mud in his hand heavy as guilt. The shrine stood silent under the rain, the candles extinguished, the statue gleaming faintly in the darkness. The woman's face, calm, tender, maternal, seemed almost alive. Ananda's breath came shallow. "Forgive me," he muttered, though he did not know to whom he spoke. He reached out, his trembling hand pressing the mud across her face, her robe, her outstretched arms. The earth clung to her white surface like sin upon purity. When it was done, he stepped back, heart pounding. "Let them see," he whispered. "Let them see what faith is made of, nothing but clay." Lightning flashed, and for a moment the statue seemed to glow beneath the filth. Not angry, not wounded, only sorrowful. He turned away, his robe soaked and heavy, and climbed the path back to the monastery. That night, sleep did not come easily. The sound of the rain was relentless, tapping like fingers upon the window. When at last he drifted into uneasy slumber, he dreamed. A woman stood before him, her form veiled in pale light. He could not see her face clearly, but he knew her. "Why?" she asked. Her voice was not angry. It was soft, unbearably gentle. "Because they have forgotten the Buddha," Ananda said, his voice breaking. The woman looked at him for a long moment, and then said, "And have you forgotten compassion?" He tried to answer, but the words would not come. She reached out her hand, and when she touched his cheek, he felt warmth, not like fire, but like rain in sunlight. Then she was gone. He woke with a start. The candle beside his bed had burned out, and the room was still. But there, at the foot of his bed, he thought he saw a faint shimmer, like a reflection of moonlight on water. Morning came, gray and cold. Ananda rose, weary, and went down to the banyan tree. The villagers were already there, gathered in hushed voices. When they saw him, they stepped aside respectfully. The statue stood untouched, radiant as ever, the marble spotless, the folds of her robe pure and white. No trace of mud remained. Ananda's heart clenched. He stepped closer, searching every inch of the stone, but there was nothing, not even a streak. The rain had washed it clean, or perhaps something else had. Mira approached quietly. "Venerable," she said, "they say the rain cleansed her, that it was a sign of forgiveness." Ananda said nothing.
His hands shook. That night he returned to his chamber, but peace would not come. Each time he closed his eyes, he saw her, standing in the rain, her eyes sorrowful, her hand extended as if to bless him. He tried to chant, to still his mind, but the verses faltered. His voice broke. And when the candle flickered low, he whispered into the darkness, "Who are you, that even my doubt becomes your temple?" Outside, the rain began again, slow, steady, endless, as though heaven itself wept for both the sinner and the saint. For 3 nights, Venerable Ananda could not sleep. The rain had ceased, yet its memory lingered in every sound, the dripping from the eaves, the whisper of wind through wet leaves, the muffled echo of his own breath. He spent long hours sitting before the Buddha's image, his prayer beads unmoving. But though his lips formed the old words, "May all beings be free from suffering," his heart no longer believed he knew what freedom was. Each night, when the candle burned low, the same vision returned. The woman, pale, veiled in soft light, standing at the edge of his bed. She did not speak this time. She only looked at him, and in her eyes was neither judgment nor mercy, only an infinite patience. By dawn, the visions would fade, and he would find his pillow damp with tears he did not remember shedding. The villagers spoke quietly about miracles. They said the rain that had cleansed the statue was holy, that even the sick who came to touch its base found comfort. Some began to call the banyan tree the place of 2 mothers, one of stone, one of compassion. Ananda heard their words through Ravi, who brought news each morning. The boy spoke with cautious joy, as if afraid the monk might rebuke him. But Ananda did not. He only nodded, eyes distant. At last, on the 4th morning, he said, "Ravi, prepare the offering bowl. We will go to the shrine." The boy's face lit with surprise, then worry. "Master, are you certain?" "Yes," Ananda said softly. "There is something I must understand, or confess." The path was quiet. Mist coiled low among the trees, and the river below murmured like an old hymn. The banyan tree rose ahead, vast and green, its roots gripping the earth like veins of time. Before the statue, incense still smoldered. Someone had left garlands of white jasmine, and a clay lamp that burned steadily despite the breeze. Ananda approached slowly. His robe brushed the wet leaves, and the faint smell of earth filled his breath. He knelt. Not before the Virgin, not before an idol, but before the truth that both had somehow come to hold. "Forgive me," he whispered, voice trembling. "I sought purity through pride. I thought faith had only one face, the one I knew. But perhaps compassion wears many forms." He bowed low until his forehead touched the ground. Ravi stood behind him, silent, eyes wide. And then, a sound. Soft, almost imperceptible, like the sigh of rain returning after drought. Ananda lifted his head. The air shimmered faintly before the statue, as if light itself had taken breath. For an instant he thought he saw her again, the woman from his dreams, standing beside the stone image, one hand resting on the child's shoulder. Her gaze met his, calm and endless. But this time she did not speak. Instead, from somewhere deeper, not from outside, but from within his own heart, a voice rose, clear and tender. "Do not seek me in stone, or in name. Seek me in the kindness you have yet to give." The vision faded. The lamp flickered once, then steadied. The wind stilled. Ananda felt his tears fall freely. They mixed with the earth beneath him, a humble human offering. When he rose, he did not feel enlightened, nor forgiven, only quiet. A silence so vast it seemed to hold both his doubt and his faith without contradiction. That evening, he and Ravi returned to the monastery.
The old monk lit incense not only before the Buddha, but also before the open window facing the valley, where the church's cross gleamed faintly in the last light of dusk. Ravi hesitated. "Master, for whom is that offering?" Ananda smiled gently. "For all who pray, in any tongue." The bell tolled once, deep, resonant, unhurried. From far below, the church bell answered. Two sounds, distant yet harmonious, drifting together through the valley. And between them, Ananda sat in stillness, not between two faiths, but within one boundless compassion, beyond division, beyond form. Outside, the rain began again, light, cleansing, eternal. The rains had passed. For the first time in months, the valley of Satara awoke beneath a clear blue sky. The air smelled of wet earth and wildflowers. The river, swollen from the monsoon, shimmered in the morning light like a ribbon of glass. At Linsan Monastery, the old monk rose before dawn. He dressed slowly, folding his robe with the same care one gives to a farewell. Ravi watched in silence, a quiet unease in his eyes. "Master," he said, "are you leaving?" Ananda smiled faintly. "Not leaving, child, only walking, as all rivers must one day find the sea." He placed his alms bowl into Ravi's hands. "This is yours now. Keep the temple open. Keep the bell alive. Let those who come, whether they wear robes or rosaries, find peace here." Ravi's eyes glistened. "But Master, where will you go?" Ananda looked toward the horizon, where the mist was lifting from the hills. Wherever compassion still hides its face, perhaps it waits beyond these mountains, perhaps within. He walked down the old path, his staff tapping softly against the stones. The banyan tree stood tall, its leaves glimmering with morning dew. Before it, the statue of the mother and child gleamed white beneath the sun. He stopped and bowed deeply. The flowers left by the villagers swayed in the wind, filling the air with their scent. "May peace dwell here," he murmured, "not as a victory of one faith over another, but as the meeting of two rivers in the same sea." For a moment, it seemed the statue smiled, or perhaps it was only the play of light upon the stone. Ananda turned and continued down the slope, the sound of the village fading behind him. Days passed. He walked through forests where the air was thick with the songs of cicadas, through fields where farmers bowed to him with gentle curiosity, through lonely paths where only the whisper of wind kept him company. Each night he would stop beneath a tree, light a small candle, and whisper his prayer. "May all hearts, known and unknown, find peace." He did not seek temples anymore. He no longer sought visions or signs. He sought silence, the kind that lies beneath all prayers, beneath all names. One evening, near a riverbank, he met a young woman carrying a child. Her sari was faded, her feet bare. She smiled shyly and offered him a drink of water. "Where do you go, Holy One?" she asked. "Nowhere," Ananda said. "Everywhere." The child in her arms reached out and touched his hand. His small fingers were warm, alive, curious. The monk felt a tremor run through him, a memory of the statue, of the woman in light, of all he had once misunderstood. He bowed his head. "Thank you," he whispered. When he looked up again, they were gone. Only the sound of the river remained. That night, the moon rose over the valley. Ananda sat beside the water, his reflection trembling with the current. The stars scattered above him like grains of rice spilled from a monk's bowl. He breathed deeply. For the first time, his heart felt utterly still. The world was vast and silent. The rain had stopped. And in that silence, he heard no bells, no hymns, no chants, only the steady rhythm of the earth, the eternal breath of compassion itself.
He closed his eyes, and a smile, faint, peaceful, touched his lips. When dawn came, the villagers found his staff by the river, his robe folded neatly upon a stone. The water flowed on, soft and endless, carrying the reflection of the rising sun. Far away in Satara, the temple bell and the church bell rang together once more, two voices, one prayer. It has been many years since the venerable Ananda walked beyond the valley. The rains have come and gone 1,000 times since then, and the hills of Satara have grown greener with each season. I am old now. They call me Ravi the Keeper, the guardian of Linsan Monastery, but I am no guardian, only a witness to the memory of one man's faith. The monastery still stands, though the stones have softened with moss and age. The great bell still hangs before the gate. Every morning I strike it once, and its sound rolls across the valley, deep, patient, forgiving. Below, the church still stands too. When their bell rings, it answers mine, and the two sounds meet somewhere in the air above the banyan tree, where the statue of the mother and child still gleams white, untouched by time or dust. The villagers say miracles still happen there. The sick come to pray, the lost come to rest. Sometimes, after the rain, children place lotuses at the statue's feet, not as Buddhists, not as Christians, but as children of the same sky. And in those moments, I feel him, the old monk, walking quietly among the mist, staff in hand, smiling as he once did, the kind of smile that holds both sorrow and peace. I remember his last words to me. Keep the bell alive, Ravi. Let those who come find peace, whatever name they give to love. I did as he asked, and sometimes when the rain begins again and the valley turns silver with mist, I think I hear another sound, faint but clear, the echo of his chant carried by the wind. May all beings be free from suffering. Then the bells answer, one of bronze, one of silver, and for a single, perfect moment, the valley breathes as one.
Mr. Tran Vinh was a man who had built an empire. From humble beginnings in the Vietnamese countryside, he rose to become one of the wealthiest men in the region. He owned hotels, real estate developments, companies, and he moved among elites. Everyone saw him as a self-made man. He bore the title tycoon, and he let the world know it. In his mansion high above the city lights, Tran Vinh held cocktail parties and gala dinners. He was used to being served. He measured life in deals, profit margins, luxury cars, and trophy homes. The world belonged to him, or so he believed. As his fortunes grew, his faith dwindled. Once, as a young man, he attended Mass with his mother and felt a stir in his heart. But the demands of building his kingdom consumed him. He began to consider religious devotion as quaint, irrelevant, a relic of the past. He held no patience for superstition. He believed, if you have money, you have power. If you have power, you answer to no one. One day, in the stretch of land which he had earmarked for a major development project, there stood an old chapel with a statue of Our Lady, Mary, Mother of God. The local villagers cherished it. They came to light candles and pray for the harvest, for health, for peace. But to Tran Vinh, it was an obstacle, a distraction in his plan, a symbol of the poor man's devotion, something to be swept aside so that his skyscraper or shopping complex could rise. He issued orders. Remove the chapel, clear the statue, build on this land. Faith has no place here, only progress. His contractors hesitated. The villagers petitioned, but he pushed ahead. One evening, under the gleam of floodlights and the sound of excavators, Tran Vinh, in his bespoke suit and polished shoes, walked to the statue. The moonlight cast a silver glow on the serene face of the figure of the Virgin Mary. He paused, gazed at it, then sneered. With a quick motion, he ordered the statue to be removed.
The statue was knocked from its pedestal, dragged off the spot, thrown into the shallow pond beside the chapel grounds. The water rippled. Some of the villagers gasped, but those running his project cheered. Finally, the old relic is gone. For Tran Vinh, it seemed symbolic. He had shown that nothing stood in his way, not faith, not tradition, not humble devotion. He had proven his dominion. And in his mind, the statue's fall marked the triumph of his will. But beneath the shimmer of his success, cracks were forming. Almost immediately, the project encountered delays. Contractors demanded bigger payments. Permits got held up. Mysterious accidents delayed excavation. Tran Vinh shrugged them off as costs of doing business.
At home, when he returned to his mansion, the emptiness began to gnaw. He realized that no amount of champagne or applause filled the void. He turned away from overlooked invitations to Mass. He dismissed his wife's suggestion that they visit a small parish for reconciliation. He believed he was above needing forgiveness. Yet, the deepest blow was waiting. One morning, the media reported that his major partner had sold his shares and left the company. Another headline announced that his daughter, once his pride, was hospitalized under strange circumstances. A public scandal erupted over allegations of financial misdealings in his development. Within weeks, his empire trembled. In the whirlwind of crisis, something strange happened. The pond into which the statue had been thrown developed algae, weird odors, even fish dying. Neighbors whispered of a cursed spot. A local priest quietly said to one of the villagers, "When we treat the sacred with disdain, we may not see the immediate cost, but the soul knows." Tran Vinh laughed off the rumors. He said, "This is nonsense. I'm a rational man. My money buys solutions." Yet inside, he felt an unfamiliar dread. He began to dream dark dreams, of falling towers, of losing everything, of being utterly alone. Thus, the first chapter closes. A man in the throes of pride, convinced of his invincibility, yet standing poised on the edge of spiritual collapse. For Tran Vinh, the fall was swift. The market turned, investors pulled back, lawsuits followed. His lavish lifestyle became unsustainable. His staff began to leak stories. His reputation took damage. His wife left for a quieter life abroad. His daughter, though recovering, no longer spoke to him. He found himself in the empty halls of his mansion, echoing with silence. In that moment of humiliation, he realized what he had dismissed, that faith is not decoration, it is a lifeline. One evening, alone in his darkened office overlooking the city, he recalled the statue of Our Lady being thrown into the pond. He thought, why did I do that? What did I accomplish, aside from angering something I don't understand? The emptiness in his heart grew. He felt fear of losing everything, yes, but more than that, he felt the fear of being unredeemable. In his pride, he had treated devotion as a joke. Now, in ruin, he saw that devotion matters. He reached out to the small parish where the old chapel had been. He knocked at the door. A humble priest answered. He recognized the face of the man whose development crew had removed the statue. They sat in a cold, simple room. Tran Vinh could hardly speak at first. He admitted, "I was wrong. I thought I was above it. I thought money was enough. But now I have lost it. Perhaps I lost myself, too." The priest listened, then said gently, "You still have a soul. You still have a chance. But it will require humility, confession, and a turning away from the old way." He offered to help Tran Vinh return the statue, restore the chapel, and offer his resources for good. Tran Vinh recoiled at first. He thought, "But doing proper repentance will show weakness. People will mock me." Yet inside, he had nothing else. He agreed. What followed was a slow, painful process of restoration. Tran Vinh sold off major assets. He downsized his life.
He traveled to the village where the old chapel stood. He knelt by the pond. He asked forgiveness, not just of people, but of God and of the Mother of God. He ordered the statue recovered. It was cleaned, placed back on a new pedestal. A small plaque was added, "In memory of humility regained." Volunteers gathered. Villagers came. The old chapel was reopened for Mass. Tran Vinh attended, quietly, in the back pew, not as a tycoon, but as a penitent man. During that season, numerous coincidences occurred. The water in the pond cleared, fish returned. Contractors hired by the project gave unexpected goodwill. Neighbors spoke of the changed man. Not that his wealth returned, but the peace he had never known started to arrive. Inside his heart, Tran Vinh discovered that faith isn't about proving you have power. It's about recognizing you need help. He learned that trust is not built on money, but on mercy. He felt for the first time the warmth of letting go of control. His daughter returned, hesitantly. She told him, "I wanted you to know I still believe in you, not the tycoon, but the Father." He wept. He promised, "I will not be the same man." The community watched, and they began to hope. And so the second chapter, a man stripped of his illusions, his pride shattered, his faith tested, and in the testing, his transformation began. In the final chapter, Tran Vinh found that restoration is not instantaneous. It is a daily decision. He created a small foundation dedicated to helping the poor, the displaced, communities near the site of the old chapel, and others. He cut his own salary to a minimal level. He took on oversight personally, visited the families his foundation served. The chapel became a center of healing. Every Sunday after Mass, Tran Vinh stood aside as volunteers served meals to the needy. He scrubbed floors, handed out blankets, and asked nothing in return. He no longer sought public acclaim. He sought only authenticity. One evening, as twilight fell and candles glowed in the chapel, a woman approached him. She said, "I'm the one who begged you to leave the statue in the first place. I want to thank you for returning it, for what you've done with the land. I don't know how to say it except, you changed." Tran Vinh smiled, quietly, and answered, "I was the one who needed to be changed." In that chapel, there remained the statue, the same figure of Our Lady, now gazing out with gentle compassion. Above it, the words, "Behold your mother." Tran Vinh often paused before that statue, and often heard in his heart not condemnation, but welcome. His daughter got married in that chapel. The pond beside it, once foul and despised, was renewed into a small reflective pool. People came to pray by its edge. He set aside part of his foundation's funds to restore it into a garden of contemplation. News of what he had done spread beyond the village. Some skeptics called it a publicity stunt. Others called it miraculous. But for Tran Vinh, the truth was simple. He had been offered mercy, and he accepted. He had been humbled, and he was healed. At the end of his journey, he stood at the border of his past and his new life. He realized, the empire he once built could vanish tomorrow, but what matters is the life he now lives, rooted in love, humility, and service. As the ceremony concluded, the priest of the parish said to the assembled, "Let this story be a reminder. When we boast, we fall. When we submit, we are raised up. God's mercy is not exhausted by our sin. It is greater than it. Let us be witnesses." And Tran Vinh, once proud, now quiet, placed his hand on the statue's base and whispered, "Thank you, Mother, for not leaving me when I left you." To an American audience, this story resonates beyond its Vietnamese backdrop. It is a universal tale of corporate success, spiritual emptiness, arrogance, reckoning, and redemption. It reminds us that in a culture that often equates success with wealth, the greatest triumph may be the surrender of ego. It shows that faith is not a symbol to discard, but a refuge to embrace. And it teaches that mercy awaits even the most proud, if we but turn our faces back. Let this narrative invite reflection. What statues do we toss aside in our lives? Symbols of truth, of faith, of community, because we believe we are in control.
And when we lose control, will we rush back, with humility, to that which we once scorned? May the story of Mr. Tronvin serve as a mirror, and may we each find the courage to kneel, to confess, to ask for forgiveness, and to live as witnesses.